All right. Welcome to the Smoking Men Tobacco Club podcast.
I should have gotten my cigar before I set up my mic.
Should've.
Now I have to move it.
So I am the owner and the host of this podcast. My name is Whitman. I am joined by one of my best friends in the world, the one and only Zoe.
That's me.
So
At least the only male Zoe that I've ever met.
only male Zoe. You know what? Yeah, only male Zoe that I've ever met. So, yeah. Today we are going to be reviewing the Rocky Patel Emerald. Neither of us have had this cigar, so it is a blind review. And that brings me into the first kind of topic of discussion that I want to bring up on this channel. I kind of have three pillars for what I want each episode to kind of be like. And the first one is these blind reviews. Now, when I thought about how I wanted to do this, I considered having it be purely educational and, doing the research beforehand. What kind of, wrapper is this, filler, binder, etc. What kind of notes we can be expecting. But I think that kind of takes some of the fun out of smoking a cigar, and I think it influences what you taste to a degree, and I can certainly appreciate the irony in doing a blind review and people listening and being like, oh, these are the notes he's tasting, maybe I'll taste that. So I do appreciate the irony.
That's called confirmation bias. Confirmation bias, where you expect a certain result, and therefore you are more likely to observe that result in your own experiences. This, I don't know anything about it other than it's got this large green bit, and I've discovered upon the plastic unwrapping portion that it is in fact rectangular in rolling.
That's called a box press.
Okay,
yeah.
Box press.
I'm gonna follow suit with your how you have the mic there. I like that.
Yeah, I was playing around with it while you were doing your levels, and I was like, I think this is about the only level I can put it at where it will both hear me and not get in the way of the cigar enjoying experience.
Yeah.
However, all right, I'm just gonna reach over the mic and give mine a choppy chop. Do you? Okay, actually, this is, I think, something good to talk about on a cigar podcast. Do you prefer a smaller or wider snip?
I think it all depends.
Why don't you tell everyone what different effects you can get by doing it either way?
I think it's
and
honestly
I'll pretend
all
that it's just for the audience and not for me.
I think it's all just, it comes down to preference. And I'm actually thinking with how much I'm fucking around with this, I might just restart everything.
And if so, all right, well, so the things that the preference can be for is things like speed, temperature, and if you're going for more full mouthfeel or long-term savor, these are things that can be affected by the cut size. So
I am going to restart this too, I think.
The whole thing?
Yeah.
No, it's great. It's a first
you're right.
podcast.
You're right. It's bound to have some problems.
It's earnest in its authenticity. I think that this is something that early adapters will get to say when you've got 6 billion followers, and they'll be like, I was there when they still were figuring out how their mics worked.
That's fair.
All right. I'm going to go for a medium cut because all I know about this is that it is encased in green. I will remove that. I will borrow your star bespangled lighter because we are, even if it won't release today, we are recording this on...
Oh, Veterans Day.
There you go.
Oh, there we go. I was trying to think. Well, when you mentioned, the Star Spangled, I was thinking we're a long way off from Independence Day. But
I flew my American flag today. I feel appropriate.
Patriotic. All right, getting back to cuts. I actually prefer V cut.
I do too.
No, I can't explain why.
I can.
With a logical reason. For
can.
me, I just kind of like the mouthfeel of it.
Yep.
It's
mouthfeel, and it is less likely to disintegrate because it has less contact. The dip prevents those sections at the deepest part of the V from getting as moist or as wet as a flat cut will. So it's going to keep the center drier, which is actually going to allow that smoke to come through a little bit cleaner. And it's also going to just feel better on your tongue when you're not getting shavings. Now, you're not going to get shavings with a really well-rolled cigar, but how many of us only smoke well-rolled, perfect cigars?
That's true. Not all of us can smoke the high-end Davidoffs.
All right. Immediately, this is just giving me all the warm fuzzies.
Yeah, I quite like this. You know, I was talking to a buddy who owns his own cigar lounge, and it's funny how many times new cigar smokers are just like, I want something creamy, and really they just want to be smoking air. So I will say, if you are a new cigar smoker, don't gravitate towards light leaf cigars. Number one, they're not necessarily going to be real mild, which I think is what
you expect.
And I think that's what new cigar smokers want. They want something mild.
Yeah.
But you can have a milder cigar, and when I say mild, something that's not going to hit you with a ton of nicotine, that's not going to totally burn out your mouth, but you want something that's still flavorful.
Yeah. I mean, I think my lightest cigar was like dark as mud, man. I remember that thing. That thing threw me for a loop. I think you gave it to me.
Did I?
I think
Do you remember
so.
What it was?
No, man. I wish I need to start like keeping these little
the bands.
These little bands, so I can keep track, and then like get a little notebook and write down, like just tape it in there like like my mom used to do with scrapbooking or something. But it's just gonna be full of dried up tobacco.
You know, that would actually be kind of cool, though.
It would.
Just keeping the bands and writing a journal of, you know, the notes, the flavor notes that you tasted. And then, you know, when your kids are older, or, you know,
especially if you're more interested
like,
in trying new cigars than just
absolutely.
like, this is my favorite and this is my brand, this is what I always do. Of course, you're going to know that one really well. But if like you're like trying a bunch of stuff all the time, you might have one that you just absolutely love, but you're so interested in trying new ones that you go back a couple months later, you're like, oh, what was that one I loved? I don't know. I've tried 8 or 12 since then, and I don't remember which one it was.
That's true. Well, right off the bat, I am getting, and again, I wanted to do these reviews blind. I did not want to read about the binder, the wrapper, the filler, you know, what seed, where they're grown, and the flavor profiles beforehand. I want each of these reviews to be purely blind. You know, what do I taste without any outside influence? And you know what? It tastes... all I really get is cedar and leather.
I can affirm that. I'm getting... It's definitely on the medium side of harshness. Like, I mean, I've had more harsh, I've had less harsh, or less more mild or whatever. But it's got very nice flavors. So yeah, cedar's a good one. Wave that broom around.
Yeah. So
first podcast issues.
First podcast issues. So oh man,
I will serenade you in the dark as I discuss the beautiful bouquet of flavors that is. Actually, I don't even want to say bouquet. It's very homogenous. A lot of times when you get a cigar, particularly if you have a lot
there we go.
I no longer serenade in the dark. Which means I will now move the mic to a less sensual position. So a lot of times when you have a cigar, you've got a lot of different flavors in either a competing fashion in a less quality cigar or in a complementary fashion. This is the plain cheeseburger of cigars. I am having like very few, but there is no competition. It is just, this is Jack and Coke. This is a very simple set of flavors that are working together without anything cluttering the road. This is driving on a freeway when you're the only one there. It is just simple and easy, and nothing's chasing you down with blue lights. It's a good time.
You know, I like that, though. As someone who appreciates simplicity and subtlety in general, I don't think a plain cheeseburger is an insult to this cigar.
I'm a plain
really
cheeseburger kind of guy.
I'm a plain cheeseburger kind of guy. You know, I think, and honestly, I'm glad I picked this cigar. I pre-purchased quite a few different.
I was overwhelmed by the
cigars.
decisions that were available.
Yeah, I pre-purchased quite a few cigars that I knew I wanted to try that looked interesting, and again, I think given that I have a studio that's not set up, and we're doing this first podcast in front of my house in the dark, having my wife come and turn on the porch light so that we're visible. We have kids screaming in the background. I like the humble beginnings. I like the lack of pretension that this has to it, because I think certain people get pretty pretentious about cigars.
I think that the cigar community and the cigar hobby invites a certain layer of pretension, and I think there's a place for that. However, I think the people who are looking for that, you go to your cigar lounge for that, and you share with other people who are in that zone. But I think a lot of times when that happens, there's a pressure to impress, or at least to not get laughed at, because we're men and we like to rib each other, and I think that that's a great part of masculine culture.
Oh, absolutely.
However, if you would like to not be the one who shows up at a construction site with a new pair of boots, then coming to a podcast like this, where it's just, this is where you learn enough to scuff up your boots before you show up to the other guys. And so I think that there needs to be that place of low snobbery, lack of pretension, and just all the same refinement and all the same appreciation that comes from pretension, but without the pomp and circumstance.
I like that. But yeah, this is an excellent cigar, and I think that, obviously we'll start to get different flavor profiles and tasting notes as it goes on.
Actually, this is a good point to ask that question for everyone who is new to this hobby. There are 3 stages of the cigar. What are those called?
That is an excellent question.
You don't know.
That I would have to find out myself.
Okay, well, tune in next time.
I'm just that asshole who just smokes cigars. I'm not a cigar aficionado.
Okay, so there are 3 sections of the cigar, and I don't remember what they're called, but there's essentially the top, the middle, and the bottom, and they have distinct parts of the journey.
See, I just call it the tip, the shaft, and the base.
That is where Whitman's mind goes. Freud wins. So we're gonna get harsher notes, but also, in my experience, the middle tends to be really sweet. It's still harsher, but it is also where the sweet flavors are close enough to your mouth that they're able to get there before they fade, but also not so close that they get mixed in with the heat of the smoke.
Yeah. And I would say I always have a different experience, even with the same cigar, depending on how quickly I smoke it. When I smoke, and this is, I'm a very fast smoker. I love smoking so much that I hate just letting it drag on. I like to, experience it, and I'm like, cool, I'm gonna get another one now.
You'll get that. You'll learn how to control that. I'm saying you, the audience, because I know you already know, but you'll learn how to control that if you engage in pipe smoking.
That's true.
Because
That's
with
true.
pipe smoking, there is
slower.
a right and wrong speed. With cigar, it's preference, but with a pipe, your whole goal is to keep it lit.
Yeah.
And if you ever feel bad about that, just remember that Tolkien famously made fun of C.S. Lewis for never being able to keep his pipe
C.S. Lewis
lit.
couldn't keep his pipe
He talked
lit.
too much.
Yeah.
But one of the most famous pipe smokers in the world couldn't keep his pipe lit. So you can feel okay. But the cigar, the faster you smoke it, the harsher your flavors are going to be. Because you are controlling, obviously this doesn't burn hot enough. The auto ignition point of tobacco is too high to burst into flames. But you are giving it airflow, and the more airflow it has, the hotter it burns and the faster it burns. Fun fact about English smoking culture, during the era of C.S. Lewis and Tolkien and Winston Churchill, three of the most famous Englishmen of that era, all smokers. But the cigar was considered the upper class smoking method, whereas the pipe was the working class. And the reason for this is because you can, if you are proficient enough at keeping your pipe lit, put your pipe in your teeth and work with your hands. You can't do that with a cigar without biting the end off. And so Churchill's cigar habits were actually a indication of his political party.
Interesting.
It was a calculated part of his image. Or at least it wasn't an accident. I mean, he probably would have enjoyed cigars regardless of his political leanings, but I think that it's all part of the same thing.
I think this is a good time to interject real quick. So we've obviously touched on the first pillar of what I want this podcast to be, or what we want this podcast to be. Because to say it's just me would be, I believe, an insult to my friends in the community. I am the perhaps just the spark, the catalyst, if you will, at best. The first pillar is reviewing cigars, reviewing pipe tobacco, and we will get to specific types of pipe tobacco down the road. Pure Turkish, pure English, a Cavendish, things like that, and tasting these notes and describing them and educating. That's kind of the first pillar. But before we continue on to the second pillar, because we've kind of already talked about it in general, we just haven't defined it. I want to give us a little bit of our background. We didn't actually introduce ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
So my name is Whitman. I have a background in so many things. I feel like I really embody the jack of all trades, master of none aspect. And I tend to be pretty ADHD. I get to the point where I wouldn't say I'm a master of anything, but I get to that advanced point, and then I hit that plateau, and either because of time, money, or again, just having so many general interests, I can't dedicate myself to being a master at it. And so sometimes, granted, with that, I tend to get frustrated and change course of action. But my background, just for the audience, is in engineering, but I'm also a musician, and I have a background in medicine as well, and that's just, it's interesting. I will say it's hard describing myself. I feel like it's so much easier to describe my friends. Like when I look at you, I'd be like, okay, Zoe, he's a historian, he's a theologian, he's a philosopher, he's an all-around amazing guy with a phenomenal education, and I can always count on him to teach me something new and teach me something profound. And I'm sitting over here like, oh man, like, yeah, I'm just a guy.
All right. Well, then let me fill in on that. Whitman was the type of person who, we were both homeschooled, but Whitman was the type of person who was exceptionally gifted in every subject. I could not remember a weak spot of his academic prowess, and just kind of bored by the low level of education that was expected of him, even though you skipped how many grades? I think two.
I think two, because I graduated high school.
Yeah,
I started college courses at 15, graduated high school.
Right. So,
so
for reference, Whitman and I grew up very close in age, but I always thought he was 3 years older than me. One, because he hit his growth spurt several years before I did, and two,
because I really? Because I didn't gain. I was like 4'10".
Short.
I was short too. I was about 4'10" going into high school, and then once I was almost 16, that's about when I shot. Like by the time I got my learner's permit, so 15 and a half.
But to be fair, I think
I shot up to about 5'10", 5'11".
I think 16 is around when you and I started hanging out. We'd always been around each other, but that was around when you and I started striking up a friendship. And by that point, you were much taller than me. You were much more familiar with the gym than I was. And you were also several grades ahead of me. So I did not know that we were so close in age until I think we were nearing 30. And I was like, oh my gosh, you are like 8 months older than me. I did not know that. So very smart, very excellent. And I don't mean excellent in a generic way. I mean like you excelled. And I mean, yes, in a generic way as well, but I'm using the word a little bit more intentionally than that. And but I don't think that, I think that the low expectations of high school bored you to such a degree that you got in, I don't want to say a lot of trouble, because in a like compared to the average person, it was probably a medium amount of trouble.
But if that.
For little church me,
and for a church co-op, yes,
you were one of the bad boys.
I was one of the bad boys.
And it was fun, but so very excellent and very able to handle whatever came your way. I mean, you've done a lot of work, much like me. And so you've done construction, you've done engineering, you've done physical therapy, or is that the right term?
I mean, it's good enough.
It's good enough.
It's
some sort of.
What I do blurs the line between massage therapy and physical therapy.
Okay.
So, okay. Leaning, but in the holistic health.
Holistic health, and very knowledgeable and skilled in that area, I might add. I go to Whitman for all of my gym questions, and it's so very smart, very knowledgeable, very business savvy, and just all in all, still a very fun guy. In fact, so fun that back when I did not know you were 2 or 3 grades ahead of me because of your excellence, I didn't know or appreciate how smart you were in high school. I kind of thought you were a meathead because you were so socially skilled. So popular is the wrong word. You were popular.
I wouldn't describe myself as popular.
You were well liked by the vast majority of people, but it was kind of the bad boy popular. You were the surfer dude popular a little bit. You were.
Yeah, I don't even know. Like, so I definitely wouldn't describe myself as popular.
No,
but
it's the wrong word.
When I do think back, I did have a lot of intentional friendships.
You did.
So I wouldn't describe myself as popular.
You're right.
But I think and maybe it's because this notion of popularity also comes with maybe a little bit of pompousness and
You
pretension.
were not pompous. You were definitely.
I always, ironically, I always felt like an outsider. But when I actually take the time to look back, I do feel like I made really good connections, and even people. Maybe it's just my natural proclivity. I mean, not to toot my own horn, I have always had a real heart and passion for like homeless people, where like multiple times I pulled off the side of the freeway, grabbed some food, come and just sat with people for an hour. I think that's
really
more. I don't want anyone to feel like an outcast, and I'm not always perfect. I mean, I've made so many mistakes. I've hurt so many people. But I really don't like people feeling isolated, and so I feel kind of regardless of who the person is as an individual, I've been able to sit down and have a conversation with them.
You know what I think the word I was looking for, I use the word popular, and I think that a lot of people who are in that stage of life tend to use a lot of wrong words because they lack the vocabulary to truly understand what's happening. But looking back, I think it is that you had a lot of power, social power, and the people around you knew it. And not just people around you.
I didn't know it.
Exactly. And what high schooler has the self-awareness to know that? But you had a lot of confidence, and you had a lot of... it was one of those things where just the people around you respected you. But I didn't fully appreciate or understand your intelligence at the time because I was a weak little nerdy kid who didn't respect anyone who had more muscles than I did, which, didn't take much. Although, it's a different story. But it was interesting. It was an interesting time. But I think that just your depth was so hidden because I think you kept a lot of your deeper emotions close to the chest, and it was it's been really cool to uncover that throughout the years because there's a lot of cool depth there. There's a lot of deep thoughts. Whitman's a very deep person. He's a very intentional person. He's a very just high integrity. I think that's probably one of the best adjectives I can use.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I appreciate the jack of all trades bit about you because it's something that I resonate with. It's something that I also have in common with you. I
would say you're the jack of all trades, master of all. Again, I think very highly of it, but I think it was hard for me at first to allow my circle to shrink over the years, but as it shrunk, I've just realized just how the few friends that have remained are just so incredible. And just touching on high school, one aspect I think about you that again when you're young and when you're trying to figure out so much and you're having to deal with growing up and finding yourself and finding how you fit into the world, how you operate, and doing that while you have this natural urge to be free, to be yourself, and but society says, okay, you have to tamper these things.
And I think that Disney Channel mentality of I have to be the something kid.
Yeah.
Where do I fit in the sitcom of life? I've got to have the thing that, everyone goes to. Is that How I Met Your Mother concept of, oh, he's the sports guy or he's the food guy or, whatever. And in high school, when you're growing up on those stupid, toxic Disney Channel shows, you're thinking, I've got to be the something. What do the people around me say about me? And you know what your likes are, you know what your dislikes are, and you know what you're good at, but you're so much more concerned about having other people know those things, especially if you have low self-confidence like I did. I think everyone
But see, that's kind of what I was going to touch on. Now that I'm a little older, hopefully a little wiser, or at least, hopefully a little less dumb. One thing that that I appreciate so much about you that irritated me as a young man trying to, discover himself was, I'd say your integrity and your passion for, God, the Bible, Christ, and your efforts to live that out.
Thank you.
And obviously, looking back, I think the irritation was your boldness and your ability to do it, and I lacked both of those. And but now, that's obviously one of the things that I really appreciate you, amongst all others. And again, I can, looking at my friend group, how incredible each person that has remained throughout the years truly is. It's so much easier to describe, the people in my circle, because they're just such amazing people.
I think that that's one of the things that helps us as we get older, is we stop being resentful to the people who are good at the things that either we're good at or that we want to be, and we're able to appreciate.
Well, I'm still working on that one.
We all are, but it becomes a lot easier than it was when we were in high school. I think the person I got along with the least in my friend group in high school was someone who was good at all the same things that I was good at. And it was primarily because they stole that, Zoe's the sniper of our group, or Zoe's the editor of our group. And it's like, oh no, Curtis is good at all those things too. Dang it. What am I going to do?
It's the ego. And again, trying to create that identity like you touched on.
Yeah, exactly. I think a word that I really like, talking on the jack of all trades thing, I really do detest that term, because I think it is an attempt.
Well, people do it as an insult, or people say it as an insult.
It's an insult.
They tend to lose the back end of, jack of all trades, master of none, still better than the master of one.
Yes, that is the full phrase. There's a lot of aphorisms that we use that we say half the aphorism and we don't know the whole thing.
I was trying to remember that word.
Or we've completely reversed the meaning. For example, the phrase "blood is thicker than water." Do you know the original?
It's the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb.
So that was adapted by the Christians of the 1300s. The phrase actually dates back to the Roman era, but it's the same message, which is the blood we shed on the battlefield is thicker than the water shared in the womb. And it might go back as far as the Greeks, but it was definitely used by the Romans. And it means the inverse, that basically brothers in arms or those you share a vision with are closer than family. And it's come to mean the opposite. And same thing with jack of all trades, but the term I prefer is the polymath, which is a term that means basically a multifaceted, expertise. The term polymath actually refers to expertise of intellect, but you can use it to also refer to skill as well. But the idea of being a Renaissance man, being someone who, which is, I think, a value that was lost among the boomers and among Gen X even a little bit, even though it was actually my dad, who is Gen X, who said, no, this is what we need to go back to. And I think that millennials to a little bit and Zoomers to a greater degree are returning to this idea of being a Renaissance man means being really multifaceted and competent in all areas. And I think that I think it's a worthy goal. I think that it is a fault of I'm a huge supporter of capitalism and the American dream, but I do think it's a fault of the corporate system, which again I still advocate for, but the idea of you have 1 degree, you have one profession, you have one area of expertise. This is the thing you will be known for the rest of your life. And I don't think that idea is supported by the Bible. I don't think it's necessarily unbiblical, but I don't think that there is any biblical reason to value it. And
I'd agree. And I'd even say it's detrimental. I
think it's detrimental to the soul.
Oh, absolutely. I think even if you're a non-religious person, at least in this sense, if you're not a Christian, I should say, just because we're talking about the Bible, even if you're an atheist, I would still argue singularity is just, it's anti-human nature. One thing that I've been experiencing with my daughter now, who's a toddler, a little 2-year-old toddler, her, she loves to dance, she loves to sing, she loves to run around, she loves to explore. I think that's very, she loves to draw. I think it's very innate to human nature, and we tend to pigeonhole ourselves again into a single profession, and we wonder why the joy is being sucked out of everything. And then we say on top of that, okay, well then art, music, dancing, happiness, exploration, hiking, surfing, skateboarding, it's no longer just a hobby, but we've also turned it into a skill you have to master rather than an expression of just joy and just letting it come from the soul. We have professional ballerinas, we have professional basketball players, and so we've taken these things that are just good and innate and said, okay, no, there's a skill to it, and you have to be skilled. And so again, we've further restricted, human nature in a really detrimental way.
This is why Carl Jung said that the final goal, the final boss of psychology is to rediscover and reintegrate the child version of yourself that died in adolescence. So growing up is about letting the adult replace the child, and that is the healthy progression. And then once the adult has been birthed and the child has died, now you go and resurrect the child, and you do so with the wisdom and life experience that you've gained as the adult. You now have the ability to go and rediscover your inner child from a psychological standpoint. And then this is also, to go off of what you were saying, this is why Plato said that the greatest and most skilled, the only true expert of anything is the artist. And the reason he said that is because the farmer is an expert of farming, and he farms his wheat, and he knows more about wheat and gathering grain and milling it up into flour, whatever, than anyone else. And the cart driver is the best at cart driving, and he can drive a cart better than anyone else. He knows all the roads, and he knows how the cart works, and he knows all the intricacies of how the cart, when it looks this way, it means that this needs to happen to it. And the merchant is the best at selling things. And so then when an artist comes along and paints a scene that has a farmer growing and a merchant selling and a cart man delivering, he's like, that artist has to be an expert at all three.
I like that.
In order to properly depict it. And so then the question becomes, the question that Plato poses is, how do you treat life like art? Because to be an artist does not just mean a painter or a musician or someone who creates something that its only value is for entertainment or soul enrichment. To be an artist means to treat every aspect of life artfully. And it's a worthy goal.
I like that.
I think that these cigars were artfully crafted. I am about halfway through it.
Same.
And so this, would you say it's a box?
It's a box press. That's when you get
Box
this
press. Okay.
square.
And I don't know if this is
shape.
ubiquitous to all box presses or if this is just this specific cigar. But normally I have an issue of the cigar kind of unraveling a little bit in my mouth and leaving little shavings and shreddings, and I got to peel off the extra bits. Dude, this thing is staying tight. It is.
It is well rolled. I will say that. And
But I just pulled a C.S. Lewis. I need the...
to relight. Shameful.
I know. Well...
in addition, going back to that...
It's harder to do with a cigar.
J.R.R. Tolkien taunted
Yes.
C.S. Lewis incessantly about it. But, we didn't define... okay, let me back up here. I cannot think of... I mean, I guess anyone in my friend group would be a prime example in demonstrating this, but I think you are the quintessential example of this. What we're going for with this second pillar that we have throughout this podcast so far, and this review so far, we've demonstrated, but we've not defined, is the second pillar of the Smoking Men podcast is encouraging masculinity. And let me preface this with whoever is watching, whether you're male or female, I encourage you to watch, because edification is great for all genders. To learn, to grow, to challenge one's worldview, morals, beliefs, and behaviors is excellent in its own right. It's what's the word I'm looking for?
It's worthwhile.
It's worthwhile, but I think we've seen a decline in men feeling like they can be men and men exemplifying masculinity. And we've touched on C.S. Lewis, J.R.R. Tolkien, Winston Churchill, what made Plato, and just to name a few others, Socrates, Aristotle, what made these men, great, and then even getting biblical, Jesus. What did these men embody? What does masculinity, how do we define masculinity? And I would say, with this podcast, one of the things that we want to encourage and explore is these men discussed philosophy, they discussed theology, they discussed history, they challenged themselves mentally and emotionally. They strove to be better men. Great men are protectors and providers and strong so that they can protect the weak, so that they can help the weak. And so, again, with that, we in this podcast we want to explore history, philosophy, theology, morality, and challenge ourselves on that. And so going back, so the first kind of pillar of what we want this podcast to be is, reviewing cigars and tobacco, and, having this kind of commonality of something that we enjoy, this hobby that we enjoy that unites us regardless of race, gender, and origin. And the second pillar is, becoming better men, exploring the breadth of good masculinity and encouraging other men and, to a degree, women in that.
And I think that
and I couldn't think of anyone better than you to have this first podcast with.
I think...
Although I will say you would quite enjoy my friend Mac, who has a vocabulary so profound.
I do love a good vocabulary.
Most of the time when we're communicating, I have to
Google a few words.
Get out the old Webster dictionary, and I have to ponder and process some of his verbiage in order to fully appreciate it. He does challenge me to speak better. I will say that because again, going back to my background of construction,
sure,
I swear there was one time I heard one of my foremen use a string of profanity, fuck and shit, and without using any other word, and I was able to understand his meaning, and I think that brought about a degradation.
And that speaks very highly of Mac because I consider myself someone with a pretty expanded vocabulary, and you're usually able to understand me pretty well. So it must be expansive. But
let me interject before we get too far off topic. In addition to the things I've kind of talked about, again, what makes great men so masculine, being a provider, a caretaker, being the head of their home, and then engaging in these subjects, philosophy, theology, history, exploring morality, exploring the human spirit. Is there anything else you think you would add to that I'm missing?
Well, what I'll say,
spirituality, I guess, is kind of
spirituality.
Again, without
it's an incredibly diverse and multifaceted and yet cohesive list of goals and topics that we want to cover. I think I want to address your address to women, and say that another value that this holds, if you're a woman watching, is that one of the biggest pillars that is missing from modern masculinity is support from the females who want masculine men, and that men don't feel safe being men. Now, part of being men means to be courageous enough to be a man, whether or not you feel safe.
Yeah.
But I think that sometimes those first steps are harder, and then it's kind of like rolling a snowball down a hill. Like once it's rolling, it can be self-sustaining, but it sometimes needs that push. And I think that, Proverbs talks about that, the wise woman builds up her house, but a foolish woman can be the one who destroys it. It doesn't say that of men. Men aren't given that power over their house. It's the foolish woman who brings ruin upon her own house. And she can do that regardless, because a good woman will inspire men to be great. And so to wives who are like, my husband is not great, it's like, well, what are you doing that is making him that way?
Careful, you're going to piss off a lot of feminists.
I am so very happy with that outcome.
To be fair, I've never met a feminist cigar smoker. I mean, in general, people who partake of the leaf tend to be, again, generally speaking, among a certain demographic, a more traditional demographic. But
this is fair enough. But I think that feminists aren't wanting masculine men anyway, so they can run off if they want. But I speak truth. I don't care how people react to it. I'm just saying,
like Ben Shapiro says. Which,
no,
I know. I'm sorry. As much as I.
If you notice, this yarmulke gets bigger every year. I saw it the other day. I'm like, dude, that's covering your comb over. Not your comb over. Your pomp at the front. Like it's getting up there. I remember back when I started listening to him, like I didn't even know he wore a yarmulke until one time he like turned around and it's sitting there like on the very back, and it's like the size of like a rice plate. I could hold like 6 grains of rice, and now I'm like, oh man, I can see that from your front, dude. This is getting excessive.
Well, as much as I disagree with the man, I will say I do appreciate when you said facts don't care about your feelings.
This is true,
and to a degree, I mean, we always hear, the iron fist of truth within a velvet glove, and well, so tempering that, being gentle with truth. But I think truth is necessary, and at the end of the day,
absolutely. But I think that's what drew me to Jordan Peterson.
Oh yeah,
because Ben Shapiro, I grew up on him, and
Yeah.
it was like, oh, the facts don't care about your feelings. Yeah, I'm going to go and own all the people who disagree with me, because that's all the Ben Shapiro YouTube thumbnails is Ben Shapiro owns this person or that person. I'm like, oh, I agree with him on that one topic. I like that he did that. I want to do that too. I want to use his arguments. But Jordan Peterson, agree with him or disagree with him on any given topic, the way he treats his opponents, where he doesn't treat them like an adversary. He, even in his most heated and famous, victories, if you will, he wins by treating the other person with respect, and he does not back down. He does not relinquish when he says this is true. He does not pretend it's not true. But he also doesn't want to. Ben Shapiro wins with a couple tactics, which are, shame, humiliation, and just overall making them make you wish you never thought that you could go against me. It's like it's a high school bully situation.
It is.
Whereas Jordan Peterson is so much more interested in truth that he does not see the person against him as someone who needs to be destroyed. He sees them as someone who is missing a piece of truth. And he's like, well, this is truth.
Yeah.
And so I think that when you're talking about like, the iron fist and the velvet glove, I'm like, well, there's no better role model for that method of debate than Jordan Peterson. Shapiro clearly was someone...
I mean, just to interject a little bit, I would say, Jordan, and watching Jordan Peterson's videos, I notice a lot of people are making fun of him for his crying and his vulnerability. And I would say, that's
part of manliness.
It's part of manliness. But what I was gonna say was that at the heart, I think the heart of Jordan Peterson is one of people. He genuinely cares about and is passionate about people, and seeing them.
He's overwhelmed by compassion.
He's overwhelmed by compassion. He wants to see them do better. He wants to see them express the fullness of their identity, and
an identity rooted in truth.
Identity rooted in truth, and
not who you are, but who you're made to be.
Not who you are, but who you're made to be, and and so whether he says it outright or not, who you're made to be in God.
Yeah. And I think that he's very inspiring in that way. And again, like, I'm not even talking about any of the particular things he believes or any of the stances he takes. Just how should we deal with people who are opposed to us? And I think that there is no greater example among those. It's
summoning my awesome wife to.
She's been so great.
She has been so great. I could not do any of my life without her.
And see, that's exactly what I was saying. Where the Bible says that a good wife builds up her home, and a foolish wife will tear it down. It's I've found this to be so true in my life. And a man, I mean, the last person I dated before my wife, she was great and she loved me and she was really supportive. And she used to say, like, I'd be struggling with this, that, or the other, and she'd say that I would love you in a cardboard box or something along those lines, or I will live with you in a cardboard box, or whatever it was. But basically that, and I on the one hand, I loved that. Like, it made me feel really safe and comfortable. But I was like, I have in other relationships also been challenged before because the people I was with saw greatness in me. And I was like, I love the support. And I think that the support is completely necessary at all times. But I also think that men need the drive of, you are greater than a cardboard box. You can achieve more than that. I will be with you there, but I also want to encourage you to and empower you and better you. And this is completely different from what I'd had before those relationships, which was a situation where it was, I won't love you unless you provide X, Y, and Z, right? And so those are the two extremes of the one of, I won't support you unless I have the greatest totality of what you can get for me. And I don't care. Like, you're enough, which is, again, good on its own, but like no desire to push for what I was capable of, right? In fact, if I wanted to, like, I really think I'm capable of achieving this goal. Oh, you don't need to do that. I'll love you no matter what. Which is,
I think that's detrimental to a degree.
I think so, because I think that if I was in a different place in my life and I'd gotten that, I probably would have fallen for it. But at the time, I was like, I've tasted someone who was in the middle of those two. Is like, dude, you could be king.
Yeah.
I'll love you until you get there, but this is where you can get. And that's what you should be. That's what a good wife does. That's what a good woman does, is I will love you until you get there, but this is where I see you getting. This is what I see you being able to achieve, and I will do whatever I can to make you believe that you can do that and to make you feel constantly refilled and encouraged to achieve these unthinkable goals. And I think the reason so few men reach those goals is because they either have someone who treats I didn't get there this month like a punishment, and they're like, well, I didn't marry someone who was gonna, have to borrow money for rent this month. Or someone on the other end of the spectrum is like, oh, I don't care, whatever, blah blah blah. Like, I don't think it's that important anyway. No, you want someone who's gonna say, you know what? I see where you're gonna be in 5 years. This month sucks, but we're gonna get there.
Yeah.
And that's such a blessing. And to men who are watching, look for her. And to women who are watching, look firstly to be her, and secondly to find a man who wouldn't be content with less. Because a man who's going to be content with the girl who says, I don't care if we could live in a cardboard box, for all I care, I just want to be with you. Yeah. A person who falls for that hasn't yet believed for himself what he can achieve.
Well, okay, so two things I would say. I feel like a lot of men are in that category currently.
I think so too.
Myself included, to a large degree. I think I sent you a short video or snippet the other day.
Instagram reel.
Yeah, an Instagram reel. Don't tell them that. I'm not on Instagram. Hey, I will say, as much as I hate social media, there are more and more experts on Instagram who are able to divulge their information or their expertise. One thing
just use discernment, because there's also a lot of frauds too.
Absolutely, but
a lot of misinformation.
One thing I think it was talking about the early geniuses who tend to burn out because they're not consistently challenged. I recognize that in my own life.
I remember that.
But I mean, that also kind of is tangential, or I should say not tangential, but congruent with or parallel with. Congruent is a much better term. Congruent with this corporate America of we only do one thing instead of exploring all facets
and that's where the
of
burnout
our
happens.
Talents, and where burnout happens. I'd say a lot of men, myself included, tend to doubt their abilities because they're trying to mold themselves to this singular concept and identity in society instead of being able to explore all facets of their talents and
it's the
and to be rewarded for it. And maybe rewarded is too strong of a term. I will say in my own life, I don't ever ask for a handout. I just want to see the success of my endeavor. Exactly. The fruits of my endeavors and work ethic.
Absolutely.
And across all my talents. So I feel like a lot of men are experiencing that. So this question is kind of twofold. So what do men need as individuals, as single persons, because remaining single is a phenomenon that's occurring where people are remaining single for longer. They're not engaging in a relationship, particularly men. So how do they grow and evolve themselves on their own without the support of a good woman? And then is a kind of parallel question to that, getting into the Bible where it talks about, husbands love your wives, women respect your husbands. Those are commandments that are to be given, or I should say behaviors to be followed based on the commandments always. Trying to figure out how to phrase this question. What I guess what do you have to say about that? And just as a little side note, I do think it's interesting that the Bible gives those commandments as you always do this regardless of the circumstances. I feel like women are like, well, I'll respect my wife, or women say I'll respect my husband when he deserves it. And, women, at least modern feminists would be like, yeah, go girl, yes, queen. But, as soon as you say, well, I'll love my wife when she fucking deserves it, well, then that's a problem.
Right, because we understand that part of...
As far as our identities go, I spilled a little bit, but I'm 3 glasses deep. Which, as a side note for our viewers and our listeners, I started with a glass of Lagavulin 16. I am a Scotch man through and through. I love the taste of campfire in my mouth, but we are drinking Oban 12, I believe. Really great Scotch, nice and smooth, has a nice honey finish, much more mild in the smokiness. But yeah, so what do you have to say about? I guess that's my question. What do you have to say about both of those? How do men as individuals before meeting their wives explore the breadth of their talents and grow?
Yeah.
And then how do we start to change our mentality for men and women of men love your wives regardless, and women respect your husbands regardless.
Right.
And then like you were saying, I'd love you in a cardboard box, but I see this. How do we explore that?
Yeah. So I think you started this by talking about the issue of men feeling what was the word you used? But constrained, I guess, is a new word. By this idea of this is my career and this is my degree and this is what I am for the rest of my life. And really, that's just the adult evolution of that Disney Channel sitcom we were talking about earlier of I'm this guy. And this is my friend who's an engineer. This is my construction
I guess before
friend.
you get too deep in it, let me interject. Where do you think we get that from? Is it a part of corporate America? It's just a societal
it's
ego
evolved
thing
through corporate America, but it really goes back to a serfdom model where you had a king and you had serfs and your family.
You had the blacksmith, you had the leather maker.
You had the leather blacksmith and the leather
that's
maker.
actually where last names come from.
Right. And so you had
So it's existed,
it's existed for so very long. Corporate
particularly
America,
in the medieval period. Correct?
yeah, it has evolved over time. But the further back you go, the more you see that, yes, this was your trade, but you also did a lot of other things. I mean, you can look at Amish communities as a weird modern day time capsule, where, yeah, you know, each family kind of does their own thing and has their own expertise. But when a barn needs to go up, all the men pause their businesses and go put up this barn. And so it's expected of all men, well, I'm an accountant, I can't. Well, no, you're an accountant, so suck it up and do it. Like, you're going to have to do what is necessary in order to help the community reach these goals. And so it's a very old idea. I just don't think it's the best idea. I think that the idea of being an employee, which again is not necessarily an old idea, I believe thoroughly that the sections of the Bible, particularly the New Testament, that refer to the treatment of slaves, you could sub out the word slave for employee, and I think that those commands go
that's
for
really
Christian.
what slaves were. In
Yeah, that's what,
biblical times.
especially
They
in
were
Roman
paid,
times.
They were taken care of.
Yeah, they were very well taken care of, but they had one thing. And so this is a very old idea, but it is part of why we don't feel free in doing these things. And so now we progress that idea of a man is trapped in this, and we're progressing it to the idea of men loving their wives, and you said women respecting their husbands. Certain translations say obey, and I think that that is not a faulty translation. I think that that is a perfectly valid translation. And you are right that I think it is a sin. It is a lie of the devil, and I'll back that up in a second. But to say, I will respect him when. Well, it says he's supposed to love me, so I'll respect him when he loves me. It's like, well, no, as I'm going to use the word godly, and even if you are not so inclined, but I'm going to say respectable, or even people of integrity, or of people who are upright or blameless. The job is on you to take the first step, even if they aren't doing what is required of them. And even to go outside of the Bible, to go to Freudian and Jungian psychology, therapists will tell you, if you've gone through therapy, or if you even just studied psychology or read some of these psychologists' work, that a lot of these things are a cycle, right? Like, and hopefully we all remember that scene in Inception where he's got the arrow pointing this way and an arrow pointing this way, and they're curving around each other, and he draws a line between them. And he says, and so Inception draws that image for us. And psychologists will tell you, therapists will tell you, that if the cycle is going round and round, and it's a domino circle, that you just keep re-putting up your dominoes, and then they go around, and you're knocking over their dominoes, and then they're knocking over your dominoes. The solution is for you to be the first one who doesn't let a domino fall. It is the job of the person with the highest amount of integrity, or the highest amount of self-control, or the highest amount of selflessness, the person who wants things to be better. The first person to notice the problem should be the first person to say, I will not contribute to my role in the circle. And even if I take a break for one turn, it usually is enough to make some sort of shakeup happen. And so the command in the Bible does not say, if your husband is perfect, you should obey him or respect him. It says, do it. Because through your obedience, they will be sanctified. And through your love, husbands, the wife will be sanctified. And your job is to do that job, even if your spouse, your partner, is not doing their job. And if they continue to not do their job, you become a sort of martyr, from a spiritual standpoint by continuing to do your job, and you will have blessings and reward because of it. But you're not free from your obligation to do your part. You are always obligated to do your part because that's your part. The idea. So the situation where the husband is loving his wife and the wife is respecting her husband, when both of those are happening, that is what a completely happy and healthy marriage looks like. That is what it looks like because both people are doing their job, and then both people are made happy. But the happiness is a result of both people doing their job. It does not say that when the happiness stops, your obligation to do your part stops. Because happiness is not the end-all, be-all. The happiness is not, Jesus doesn't say, obey me while you're happy. We see this so many times through biblical stories. Joseph is my favorite example. A lot of people like to point Job because, I don't know.
Job was a melodrama.
Job is a melodrama. But Joseph goes through decades of bad, and he never stops doing what he's supposed to do, even though the promises that are given to those who do those things aren't fulfilled immediately. They are fulfilled 14 years later.
Gosh, you're challenging me now, man.
And even so, because he obeyed without reward for 14 years, his reward at the end of that was so exponentially greater than it would have been if he had been getting little doses of reward. It's like that saying of, you give a kid, like, would you rather have one marshmallow today or 2 marshmallows tomorrow? It's like
I'll take the marshmallow today.
And it's literally that exact same thing, that like you could be getting like one reward. Would you rather have $10 today or $1 million 5 years from now? Like that's essentially, and I think $1 million is selling it short to what Joseph got at the end. Because it was so exponentially greater than what he would have gotten if it was just a microdose of comfort throughout his whole life, rather than a long time of struggling to do the right thing where there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And then a climactic explosion of blessing where he becomes literally the second most powerful person in the civilized world. And absolutely. Maybe even the most powerful, because he had power and wisdom, which basically gave him the freedom by the king to do whatever he wanted. So even if he wasn't the king, he probably had more power than the king at that point. So, and you see the same thing with David, where he had been given this promise of incredible blessing at a very young age, and it kept being shafted. And he didn't get it. It's like, oh, you're going to, it even starts with Samuel saying, oh, you're going to be king someday. And then the current king says, oh, if you slay this giant, you'll get to marry my daughter. And it's like, oh, wait, no, I don't want you to marry my daughter yet. Go. I'm going to take that promise away. You got to do some other stuff for me. And then he goes, does the other stuff. And like, it's just over and over and over again of him getting promised these great things. And he could be like, God, he kind of did, because we see it in the Psalms, but he's like, God, you promised me all these things and I'm not getting them. But throughout the Psalms, he remembers, even if you haven't given me these things yet, I'm going to hold you to your promise. I know that you will be faithful. And that happens. And eventually, God is faithful in this promise to David, and he becomes the greatest king in Israel's history. And I think that, between David and Joseph, you have these magnificent examples of the fact that being obedient now does not mean you get reward now. And if you're not getting reward now, because there are people in the Bible who are obedient and then their lives are comfortable and they never really have much bad happen to them. Isaac's a good example of that. Isaac doesn't have a lot bad that happens in his life. Isaac is always obedient. But Isaac doesn't have anything great that happens in his life either. He doesn't become king. He doesn't become ruler.
Fair enough. We do tend to forget about Isaac.
Yeah. Like, he's obedient throughout his whole life, and he gets a constant drip feed of comfort. He's comfortable his whole life. Nothing terrible happens, but nothing great happens either. And throughout the Bible, we see, and I'd say even outside of the Bible, we see through human history, that those who are obedient, those who are honorable and have integrity throughout their whole lives, and have long stretches of their life where it's hard and they don't see any reward or why is this even worth it for their obedience, the worth comes later and it is repaid tenfold what it would have been if it was just a drip feed of comfort. So, like to those who are loving husbands who aren't, who are respecting husbands who aren't loving you, or those who are loving wives who aren't respecting you, maybe you've got a tenfold blessing coming at an unforeseen point in the future. It could be years, but something big's coming as long as you remain obedient.
Okay. I like that. So how would you surmise that then in several sentences or less? What do men need to be doing on their own to better themselves and bring about their masculinity, and how do women need to respect their husbands and to help encourage that?
Okay. So to men, I will say that the biggest men is harder than women, I think. Because I think with women it's harder, but it's more simple. And that's something I like to say, is that simple doesn't mean easy. I'll give advice to people and they'll say like, oh, you make it sound so easy. I'm like, no, I made it sound simple. But that doesn't make it easy. The simple answer is just stick with it, but that's not easy, right? So for women, I think it's more simple. The answer to women is you have
stick with it, encourage your man.
Not just stick with it, but you have to respect him as if he is king before he's king. And you have to make him the king of your life. And
I think that's good right there.
Yeah.
Then for men,
and for men
who don't have that support,
for men it's so much more complicated. You've got to find out how to be worthy to be a king. And not every king's domain is as great. You might not be ruling over tens or hundreds of or thousands of people, but even if you're just ruling over a family of 3, you've got to be worthy to be that king. And to be worthy of that, I think the biggest word, the one word, if I were to use, I would like to use 2 words, but the biggest word is selflessness. You have to be selfless in all circumstance. Your job is to die to yourself every day. And to the wives, or not to the wives, and the second word, dying to yourself and being selfless, the second word is power. And that's the fun word, right? That's the word we want. But you have to master selflessness before you can master power. You can't, this is how tyranny happens.
Yeah.
But you've got to be the type of person, I don't mean power over your wife, I mean power around your wife. So there's this psychological phenomenon that happens with women, that women are biologically engineered to make sure that their children are safe from predators, right? And so for the vast majority of human history, this means that, lions or snakes or whatever that are going to come in the house and devour their family, they need to make sure that their children are safe from that. And women are much more attuned to this than men, but women have a meter in their head that gauges the defensive capabilities of every sapient being that they come into contact with. Including humans, and especially humans. And so when you have a wife who's agitated, one of the things that's probably going on in her head 7 times out of 10 is that she has determined that the most capable person of repelling a threat that would be outside the doors of the home is herself. If she does not believe that you are capable of repelling a snake or a lion or a bear, it does not matter if you live in an area that has snakes, lions, or bears. It could be tax collectors. I don't care. She is biologically wired to determine who is the most capable person, what is the most capable entity of repelling threats within this home. What entity is most able to keep the child from being devoured? And if it's her husband, she relaxes because she knows it doesn't have to be her. If it's not her husband, if he is soft and if he is not able to repel threats, she becomes incredibly anxious. Why? Because she has become on alert to watch the doors, to watch out the windows, to make sure that something is not approaching that she will be relegated to repelling. And if she is in that state, it puts her in a state of fight or flight, which puts you in the category of fight. She will fight against you because she is on alert, not because she doesn't like you, not because she doesn't respect you, although if you're not able to defend your home, that might be part of it, but it's not actually directed at you. It's because her brain is in a state of fight or flight that demands her to be on attention for threats that could ring the doorbell at any minute.
Yeah.
And she's not going to be able to rest. And when a woman is not at rest, that's when she destroys her home. So a man needs to be able to provide that safe place. And part of that is a selfless attitude of the way he treats her, and an aggressive attitude of those who exist outside of the family unit. And that doesn't mean hostile. I don't mean to be a jackass to everyone you meet. But she needs to know that if something bad is coming,
shove, you can,
that you're the one, you're not going to hide behind her. While something bad approaches the house, that she can hide behind you.
Well, and then that ties into the, what we touched on as far as the second pillar of encouraging masculinity goes, being the protector.
It is.
So to summarize,
and just to touch on that, protector and provider, those are the two big P's we talked about. And
the PP, if you will.
You did. So
part of masculinity is, we touched on ribbing, but also just a little bit of
crass humor.
A little bit of crass humor.
So I will say that if you're lacking in both areas, fixing protector first will go a longer way. I think a woman is far more likely to tolerate a deadbeat man who is between jobs, who will take a shotgun to anyone who shows up at the door, than she will a Wall Street man who comes home with a tie but hides behind his wife when a threat's at the door. And now, you ideally should get to both. But if you're in a position where you're at neither and you need to fix one, and you only have the mental capacity of fixing one at a time, become the protector first. Protector comes before provider, I think. Because I've seen through my own experience from what I've understood in my study of psychology and my study of the Bible, a woman will feel safer with a protector, and that will make her much more able to encourage you as you're trying to find that job. If you're trying to find a job, and I think that, forgive me if this is exposing a little bit too much of your personal life into the stream, but I think you've seen that because you're a very good protector, Whitman. You are a very strong person. You're very kind. You're a very kind person, but I would not want to cross you. I fear you. Not in a, like, I'm afraid of you way, but like, I respect you in fear.
Yeah.
And I have no question that you could fuck me up if you wanted. And your wife was very supportive in times when you were having a lot of difficulty because of things outside of your control, the economy, and really some difficult situations of living in California in the post-COVID era. You were having difficulty matching her paycheck. And I think because you hit the protector side so strongly, I think you can attest that she never gave up on you, dude.
Yeah.
And, you know, throughout everything, she has always encouraged you to follow your, I don't want to say follow your dreams. I don't want to sound Disney Channel on you, but like, to pursue what was meaningful to you.
Yeah.
And to try to find a way to make money on something that would enrich your soul.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Whitman is not a lazy person at all. Like, he is one of the most hardworking and diligent people I've met. His situation has just been, I'd say you have been the victim of a Josephian or Davidic struggle. And I think that because you had the protector part nailed down, she felt safe encouraging you to reach your heights. But you try doing that with a woman who knows that when someone dangerous comes at the door, you're going to cower in the cupboards. Like, it's not going to happen. So if you can only fix one, be protector first. And I think that that's something that every man can do, and you can't blame the economy for it. You can just find the way to, even if you can't like manifest the physical strength overnight. Yeah, one, go to the gym, try to find a way to get the physical strength. But in the meantime, you can buy a gun.
Yeah,
and if you're not in an area where you can buy a gun, dude, get a compound bow.
Yeah.
Those things are, one, legal everywhere. You don't need to register those things. And two, they're more lethal than a firearm. They're not as fast to reload. I think that's the detriment to a compound bow. But I feel safer with my compound bow drawn than I do. In fact, I keep that load in the house because my children aren't strong enough to fire it by accident.
Yeah.
I don't, they can't access my firearm. That thing's got, but that's the thing, is like you pull out the compound bow and you tell your wife to go unlock the gun safe while you're waiting. But you got one good shot.
Yeah.
And, get something you can defend your family with and show your wife that you are capable of it. And I don't care if you live somewhere where there is zero crime and no wild animals. It will make her feel, it's a subconscious thing, man. Yep. It's part of the way we're wired, whether by design or evolution, whatever you want to believe it is. Women need to know this so that they know that they're not the ones who have to stand between their family and destruction.
So to summarize, for men who are single,
to men who are single, build these skills before you find a woman.
Learn how to be a protector. Obviously build.
The more of these skills that you acquire while you're single, the more attractive selection of possible mates you are going to have when they present themselves. Yeah. I'm not saying they're going to come to you in droves. I'm not a cologne commercial. But I am saying that when they do present themselves, you are going to be presented with higher stock, with more quality options if you build up these qualities while you are single. If you are already married, build up these qualities while you are married ASAP, because I will say that the more of these qualities you build up and the more you demonstrate them, the better she will treat you.
Yeah.
And if you're a woman, if you're single, look for men who have these. Actually, I don't even need to say that, because women are already biologically wired to look for these things. But I guess then just trust your gut.
Yeah, trust your gut, but also, so summarize, I guess, in a couple words or less, like we've been trying to. Men who are single, build up that protector aspect. Get your ass in the gym. Learn to be strong. Learn to use your strength to protect those who are weak. Women who are single, learn what it means to be a truthful, respectful encourager. And then for both parties, you know, when you're married, the same thing applies, but I would add develop patience and continue to fulfill your obligation regardless of the circumstances.
I agree. And even if you don't want to go to the gym, pick up a martial arts class or something.
Yeah.
In fact,
do something.
So, I mean, I'll say from my own personal experience, martial arts is more valuable than the gym.
Oh, absolutely.
You're building up actual defensive techniques rather than show muscles. However, for some reason, it doesn't always translate to the woman's primal I need protector brain as well as a show of muscles does. So optimally, do both, but I do. I mean, like I mentioned in high school as a scrawny kid, but I was stronger than most of the gym rats there because I grew up doing construction. My grandpa was a contractor, and so I worked for him since I was like 13 years old. And so I did martial arts. So I was stronger than most of the people who were twice my size. But it didn't necessarily translate into the lizard brain.
Yeah.
People underestimate you, and like that could be valuable in a fight, but it's not necessarily valuable in attracting a mate. But yeah.
Well, as someone who
you did both
for many years, got a black belt in mixed martial arts. I will say, building up the size, the show muscle, people generally don't want to fight someone larger and more fit than them, and build up the skill to. The best way to win a fight is to just not fight at all.
Exactly. And
like build up that social skill. So I've been in 2 street fights when I was younger and dumber, and then since then I've been in multiple situations where I've been at a bar or just out and about with some friends and been in dangerous encounters. And my go-to is just always to talk my way out of it, because in the end, no one wins in a fight,
and you're not at your most impressive size.
And the guarantee to stay safe is to just not fight at all.
Exactly. And so if I can comment on that to those who are pacifistically inclined, and I don't mean like from a ethical or from a philosophical standpoint, but just like I don't want to fight. If you're choosing between the two, it's actually way better to get the show muscles than it is to actually have the defensive abilities, because you're going to de-escalate far more often, and you're going to have a much less violent track record by having the show muscles that are just able to intimidate on the spot. I had a very different encounter. I was not an aggressive kid, but because I was scrawny and nerdy, I got picked on a lot. And so I've been in a lot of fights, a lot more than you, but I didn't start any of them. It was always one of those things where people would start a fight with me and not know my capabilities, and I would, really injure these people.
Yeah.
And it was, because I had the skill, but I didn't have the show, I wasn't able to talk myself out of anything. No one was intimidated by me. And so if you want the nonviolent approach, get the show muscles, man. Like the training is only good for when the fight actually starts, and then you're able to wreck them.
Yeah.
And like that implies you actually have to do the fighting, and you actually have to hurt someone. So yeah, and you had both. And I think that honestly, oh gosh, so this brings me back to the thing that of getting right up to the point of mastering something, and then like so
hitting the plateau.
Yeah, hitting the plateau and feeling like, okay, I got this.
Yeah.
And I think I share that a lot with you. I got to red belt, which is in my dojo, I was one test away from black belt.
Yeah.
I was one test away. And I was just like, I got this. And I dropped out. I got to one rank below Eagle Scout. And I was like, it's all right. And I dropped it. And, I've done, so I think I've even done more. I've dabbled in more career paths than you have. So, I was a librarian for a time. I did construction. I mentioned that. I did food service. I was a barista for a while. And that was a level of skill and intellect that was above food service for sure. I don't think a lot of people appreciate what it means to be a barista in a local coffee shop, not like a Starbucks. I've worked at Starbucks also, but I worked in 3 coffee shops. And the amount that's expected of you is intense. Let's see, I managed homeowners associations. I was a salesman for a while. I worked at Verizon. I did laser tag. I was a YouTuber for a few years. I was a high school teacher twice, middle school teacher once, and now I do the stock market. So, master of some? I don't know. I'd say that I am better than the average person at almost all of those things. And all the things I studied in the meantime. At some point in that time, I studied mathematics, I studied philosophy, I studied psychology, I studied magic tricks, all these stupid stuff that just I get an itch once a year where I'm just I've got to get really good at computer programming last year. I'm like, I don't know why I needed to know that, but I was able to code a game to the point where it was almost ready for alpha, and I was like, I'm good. But I know we're going back several subjects. I don't know. I don't want to make this point now. I feel bad for bringing it back. I just think, one, I think that there's something so freeing in letting yourself pursue something to the point of expertise, even if it's not going to make you money. Just hey, I'm really interested in ancient Mesopotamian history right now. I really want to know why they thought that the Anunnaki were going to come back. What is going on with that? Or,
So knowledge for knowledge's sake, betterment for betterment's sake.
Betterment for betterment's sake. And you never know when these things are going to become useful in time, because God may be preparing you with information that you may need to have already had when something big comes in your future. And I mean, you and I have talked privately. My historical hero is Otto von Bismarck. And why did
That'll be a conversation for
that'll be a
next,
conversation
next
for
review.
Another time. I will go for the full session on the glory of Otto von Bismarck. But I brushed up on that because I was teaching history at the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. But I had no idea that the study of Bismarck was going to prepare me for some very heavy ethical, moral, philosophical decisions that I was going to need to make for the direction in my life.
Yeah.
A year and a half later. I think it's just so important. Here's how I'm going to tie this in. To men specifically, because I think men are the ones who, one, need to be the ones who are prepared, and two, because men are the ones with the psychological proclivity to hyperfocus. We've learned this to be more ubiquitous than ever through the regrettable infestation of short form content like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts. But we've learned that the male proclivity to hyperfocus is not as unique as we thought it was when we were kids. As kids, we thought we were weird. And then we learn, oh my gosh, this is something that kind of like every man goes through. And at some point in their life, a woman shames them out of it. A bad woman. And so as we've discovered that this is something that occurs with all men, we've discovered this for a long time, but at this point, it's become a point where it's no longer secret information. It's no longer gate kept by a degree. This is something that we now know through an exceptional amount of anecdotal evidence. And I believe that hyperfocus leads us to greatness at some point. And I think that women should, one, allow and encourage this, because I think at some point it will eventually lead to greatness. But two, I think it's also the freeing escape is the wrong word. It's a word that we use, but I think we're using it wrong, because I think escapism usually has a connotation of wanting to avoid responsibilities, but it's a way of finding meaning and finding purpose in a life that is dominated by monotony. And so if you're in a dead-end job and you're in a situation where you are, by the demands of your bill collectors, compelled or forced to maintain a singular focus in your vocation, in your job, in however you're getting money to provide for your family. If you are in that situation, to have this hyper-focus pursuit of knowledge, don't lose that. Don't suppress that. Find a way to pursue something that is new. Find a way to pursue ways to better yourself. Do not concern yourself with, will this further my career? Will this contribute to my retirement? It doesn't matter. It will contribute to the betterment of your soul. It'll contribute to your ability, because, and in a way, that does contribute to your value in the workplace and your value in your retirement, because the ability to stay engaged in your life keeps you going.
Yeah, absolutely.
It keeps you motivated and on track. Even if you're like, man, I just got to fill out 7 more hours of spreadsheets so I can go home and build my Lego Halo ring or whatever. Like, whatever it is, man, do not concern yourself with, I don't know, I'm 37 years old and I'm still playing with Legos. Who cares, man?
Yeah.
Like, if you're paying your bills and you're the one who's going to stand between your family and threats that are knocking on the door, blessed be you who find the joy to keep you doing that.
Yeah, I like that. So maybe to re-summarize, as a man, learn to be a protector, and then
protector first,
and then find the things that bring you joy and that bless your soul.
Yeah.
Which, at the end of the day, I would say I would call that your passion. So fulfill your biblical obligation to be a protector and find your passion.
I agree. And if you can find a way to make your passion make you money, do it. But if you can't, then simply find ways to
find a sugar mama.
Find ways to make time for your passions.
Okay. That's probably better.
That's probably better.
But I'm sorry. I have to we've been over here pontificating for so long.
That's a great word.
That again, I'm not the focus of this. I'm simply the I hate to say it, but the placeholder, the space holder, and the perhaps the catalyst, the interviewer, and I just come in to summarize and
well, then let me transition real quick, because this is a ultimately this is a philosophical discussion disguised as a cigar review.
As a cigar, yeah, absolutely.
So I'll say that now that I am in the middle and approaching the third,
you smoke too slow.
I smoked at the exact right speed for me to continue speaking at the rate I was speaking. And to not, I think if you smoke a cigar too fast and you're not, a lot of people will, for the sake of competition and the sake of a pissing contest, try to smoke their cigars the fast the person next to them. Don't feel peer pressured into that, but and then they feel sick. But
it's got to build up that tolerance.
That's the peer pressure I'm talking about right there, firsthand experience. So the middle portion was so harsh. I don't know if you noticed it because you were like chugging on yours.
I wasn't even chugging. I just
dude, you were going like a frat party with a piercing in the beer bottle or beer can.
Were just
like.
You're the one carrying the conversation. I was just over here smoking.
No, you're fine. You're right.
I was smoking at the right pace. You're just the one.
You're right.
Yeah.
I'm like binge smoking over here. Just a little bit here, nothing. A little bit. But middle, really harsh. I didn't like the middle, but as I'm approaching the final third, it's mellowing out again a bit, and it's a completely different flavor profile from the beginning. We're getting much deeper flavors. I'm getting a lot more of the wood and a lot less of whatever the other thing was. Leather, much less leather. And
see, I think that's interesting, though, again, how you smoke a cigar brings about different flavor profiles,
especially at the end.
And
beginning, everyone's going to have roughly similar experience, but depending on your speed and how hot the tobacco's burning.
Where I intentionally slowed down my smoking for this, but I smoked this Rocky Patel Emerald much more slow or consistently, and I found I just had perfect cedar and leather all the way through. I did not experience any harshness in the mellow or in the middle. I would say it was the same throughout, and I really enjoyed that. And now I will say, being done, I have just a nice little hint of maybe cashew, maybe or I can't quite put my finger on it, but a little nuttiness that's just lingering on the tongue.
Yeah. I've got some walnut here. It's definitely like the middle, to me, because maybe it was the way I was binging it. But the middle kind of tasted like ash. Like
that's from smoking too quick.
I think, or for that section maybe.
Yeah.
The middle was not pleasant for me right now. It's definitely a more bitter flavor than the beginning, but I am also having more sweetness. So it's just more flavor the beginning was really delicate,
Mm-hmm.
and now I've got much stronger flavors. Like the beginning felt like brewed coffee, and this is more like espresso.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's the same flavors but definitely stronger.
Yeah.
And I'd say more because at the beginning I was really having, it kind of felt like two flavors dancing together, and now it feels more like four. Where I have the same cedar from the beginning, and I've got a little bit of, no, I can taste the leather still, but that's such a bad term, but that is what it tastes like.
Tastes like cowhide.
What's the sweet that I'm tasting? I mean, it does taste like walnuts. That's one of them, but the sweet is more like almost like almonds.
Like a buttery, nutty flavor.
Buttery, nutty.
Which I would kind of liken to, like almonds or cashews. Not really peanuts. Peanut has a very distinct flavor, but something, it's got that je ne sais quoi that is can't quite put your finger on. It's that something. It's a mellow nuttiness is how I would describe it.
It's almost grapefruit.
Really?
Here,
okay, so fruitiness.
See if you can get that. Or do you need me to wipe that off?
No, you're good.
You got to try.
Keep it.
No, but I've smoked mine at a different rate than yours. So see where mine's at.
All right. No, I'm not getting the grapefruit. It is a lot more harsh, but again, you've smoked your cigar
at a completely
these
different rate.
Bursts. So
yeah, bursts.
That harshness that I'm kind of getting is just from the ash and the nicotine buildup.
The unsophisticated method.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's funny. My wife just came out to turn the porch light on, and then it shut off.
Thank you.
She's such a wonderful wife.
She really
My
is.
wife is awesome. Soraya, you gotta get a little closer, baby. Dance closer to the light. There you go. Hey, I think that, with that kind of brings us into at this point we've discussed ad nauseum in its most general terms, we've discussed masculinity and growing masculinity, and in this day and age when toxic masculinity is being thrown out, healthy masculinity, what it means to be masculine, how to be a great man.
Yeah.
And that, now that we're kind of wrapping up, that brings us into defining the third pillar of this podcast. So our first pillar is, what is bringing us all together? It's the leaf. It's cigars. It's pipes. It's and kind of again congruent with the third pillar, relationship. It's this hobby that unites us regardless of race, gender, or creed. Is these blind cigar reviews something, a way to hey, here's a cigar, here's a new cigar you might not have thought of or considered, but try it out. This is what we're experiencing. And without giving the background on it or, influencing what you might taste, as ironic as that sounds as we describe what we taste. And again, the second pillar being, developing healthy masculinity. And one thing that we didn't touch on as far as great men goes, but is a key component of the third pillar, is we want this podcast to be an encouragement and a digital form of relationship and entertainment. Part of, I think a key part of being a man is finding other men who are going to encourage you, going to lift you up, but also bust your balls and, for lack of a better term, bullshit a little. And, talk a little bit of smack, have a little bit of fun. And so the third pillar being entertainment and relationship. If you're out there and you can't get to a lounge, you can't, you're working your ass off, and all you have time for at the end of the day is, you just go out on your porch, light up a cigar, or, smoke your pipe, then hopefully, at least you can turn on this podcast, get a little chuckle, and, feel like, maybe you're the third party in this conversation and just kind of just sitting there and taking it in. And, that's really what we want. Obviously we want to encourage, provocative and, I guess that's the perfect word for it, provocative thought, and betterment of the mind and the spirit, as is a key component of healthy masculinity. But again, if you can't, if you're in solidarity or a little bit of isolation, hopefully you can feel that with this podcast.
I think you mean solitude.
Solitude, yeah.
Solidarity is the opposite. That's what we want them to be in. You guys are in solidarity with us.
You're right. Again, I've had, what was that, 4 glasses of whiskey or something?
Oh, man, I'm not catching up. I have to drive, though.
I like my scotch. Yeah, you have to drive. We're at my house. So, yeah.
I agree. I think that this is a great endeavor. And I think that anyone who watches this, hopefully they're pursuing it because they want betterment. And if not, they've stayed with us because they are inspired by betterment. I believe thoroughly in being the best version of yourself that you can be, rather than, I hate the idea of just, this is who I am, accept it. I think there's value in saying, like, I accept you where you are, but I believe in where you can be. And I think that we are all capable of more.
Yeah.
And that key to finding a good partner is all about finding that person who says, I see where you can be, and I will accept nothing less, but I will stand by you until you get there.
Yeah.
That's why you don't want the person who says, I'll take you in a cardboard box. You want the person who sees your potential and sees how great you could become, and is willing to stand by you through the hard times and to give you the encouragement and love and strengthening that you need to get to that point.
Yeah.
And I think that finding other men who can be that with you has become so hard, because too many men are, they've found a comfort in feminism that tells them.
I would disagree. I would say, if I was gonna summarize a general male mentality, first of all, yes, absolutely, I agree as a single man, and again, this is to add on the already, I guess, a third facet of summarizing what you need to do as a single man, becoming a protector and pursuing betterment. But the third thing would be surrounding yourself with good men, good, strong men who are going to encourage you and lift you up and challenge you. I would say most men, and again, this kind of varies generationally, but I think now for the vast majority of men, it's not complacency, it's apathy. I think a lot of people are burned out, and again, whether it's kind of touching back on all these topics, corporate America and a singular mindset, or kind of defining profession, or a singular way of defining who you are. I think men have become apathetic.
I think you're right. I do think, though, that there has arisen I think that there are basically kind of two types of men that they'll either be the ones who've become apathetic because they don't believe in a hope, but I think that there are so many who have found comfort in feminism because nothing is expected of them. Yeah. And they've just been like, whatever, my wife pays, or a girlfriend or whatever pays half or 60% of the bills, and I get to play my Xbox, and it's all whatever. It's like, and there's a juvenile enjoyment of that yeah, it's kind of nice. But I think it leads to a lack of fulfillment. I'm not saying a lack of happiness in the moment. I'm not saying you're not happy right now. I'm saying that you feel like something's missing. Yeah. And you feel like, do you really feel like a king? Do you really feel like you rule whatever portion of the world has been allotted to you? Do you really feel like what's yours is yours? Like, that's a big feeling. Yeah. And they've come to say that they know that the work it takes to get there is hard. And someone comes along and says, I'll take a portion of that work, but you get none of the glory. But they don't say that last part out loud. They'll say, I'll take a portion of the work. And they'll be like, you know what? It's really hard to get that glory. It's fine. Yeah. You know what? I can enjoy my Halo 3 remaster that may be coming out someday. I don't know. But man, I can play my GTA 6, and it's fine. I'll just find some joy in that. Like, yeah, man, I'll get my 6 beers a day. And like, it's comfortable.
It is.
It's really comfortable.
But the devil wants you comfortable.
The devil wants you comfortable, and like I was saying, and sometimes God has lives of comfort for people who aren't destined for greatness.
So that's why my life is fucked.
I don't think so, dude, because I don't think that you have... I would not describe your life as something that has been comfortable, because even though you have a lot of things that many people would look at and say, oh, man, if I only had what you have, then I'd be so comfortable. But the fact of the matter is that you're not comfortable. Yeah. You aren't content to say, this is all it ever needs to be. I want a kingdom to rule.
Oh, 100%.
So if you're saying I want a kingdom to rule, then the question is, how do I make that part of my future? Not why don't I have that now? That's the wrong question. The right question is, how do I make that part of my future?
Yeah, I'm struggling to find that out.
Well,
because I am very much experiencing what it's like to be the broke entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, that sucks.
It certainly does. I've been there.
And again, touching on the, I think I said earlier, growth. What I meant was finding the passion is the kind of second point of being a single man, but protector, passion, and then what was the third thing we said? Oh, surrounding yourself with good men. As iron sharpens iron, but finding, and again, bringing it back around to corporate America, finding something that I can do to provide for my family that I'm passionate about, which my passion is predominantly producing something good. I don't want to produce something that's worthless.
Yeah, and if I can offer a modicum of advice on the idea of surrounding yourself with good men, I'm speaking off the cuff here. I don't know how much truth there is verifiably in what I'm saying, but I think on my gut that there's value in surrounding yourself in men who aren't in the same place in life that you are, because one of two things is going to happen. Either one, and I think that these impact different people in different ways, so I think you do also need to find out which person you are and which type you are, and so therefore what type of friends you need. But if you have people who are in life at a place that you have not yet achieved, then there's a likelihood that you will feel inspired to reach the levels that they have reached. Or if you're another type of person, maybe a more prideful type of person like me, if you're at a place of life that is higher than people around you, then maybe you'll feel inspired to continue setting the trend and pushing for more so that people are following in your footsteps. I don't know if that's a good quality of mine.
For the fellows out there who are like me, who are, in last place but bitter, what do we do?
Find a way to,
or maybe I'm just in my Joseph position, which I'm hoping that is the case.
I think so.
I appreciate that.
But no, I know you pretty well.
But again, going back to when we first discussed ourselves, I do hold your advice and your wisdom in very high regard.
I think that was something for me as a prideful person that took a lot of growth in humility to be able to accept people who were in higher positions than me in areas that I respect, right?
Yeah.
So like I grew up like not really respecting, I didn't put much value in physical wealth. I'm like, it's all about moral integrity and it's all about being a good person. It's not about having the most amount of money possible. So I didn't really respect people who made more money than me. I was like, oh, that's great for you. I don't know if I am envious of that. But there were points in my life where I came into contact with people who were better at the things that I valued in myself than I was. And I think that my initial instinct is to be resentful towards them and dislike the fact that they existed simply because they were better at the things that I valued than I was. And I was like, that's my thing. Like, why are you better than me? And I think the sinful from a biblical standpoint and unhealthy from a psychological standpoint, because psychology and the Bible are agreed on this. The sinful and unhealthy standpoint is to try to find a way of telling yourself, oh, well, my life must suck in some other area, or maybe things aren't that great for them, or they got this, but they don't have this other thing that I've got. It's like, well, but then I think that there was a point in my life where, and I don't remember why or when, I remember around when this happened. It was around when I was 27, and I encountered someone who, so one of the things that you guys might not know about me, Whitman does know about me, is I'm very well versed in the Bible, the scriptures, and things like that. And you can bring something up, and I can usually tell you roundabouts where it's said or what the proofs or disproofs of that statement was. I encountered someone who was not just a little bit better than me. I could quote them any part of the biblical scriptures, anything, the most obscure thing I could think of. I could before going to hang out with them, I could look something up that was like the most obscure reference from the minor prophets. Like, this is Hosea chapter 1 verse 3. I'm going to get that. And I would say it to him, and he would tell me exactly where it was. Exactly. I'm like, this dude has been a Christian for 2 years. I grew up in this stuff. What madness is this? And I was just like, you know what? I can't compete with him. And I want to be better because I'm inspired by him, but I need to stop trying to compete with him. I'm going to gain far more in life, social points, spiritual betterment, contentment in my life by just bragging on him everywhere I go.
Yeah.
So what I started doing is anytime we would go to a room together, and instead of being like, I know this Bible verse, and I know this Bible verse, like, instead of that, I'd just be like, oh my gosh, do you guys know that Jake is the most biblically versed person I have ever met? Like, let me just show you. Jake, where does it say this? And he'd be like, oh, it's here. I'm like, do you see this? This guy is incredible. He is so tremendously... I want to be more like this guy. And by doing that, not only did I feel better about myself, and not only did I lose the part of me that was envious and contemptuous, but as a side point, I gained more respect from the people around me by affirming him than I would have by trying to compete with him. By being his advocate. I was going to say cheerleader. Yours is way more masculine. By being his advocate.
There you go.
By singing his praises, I gained a public identity as someone who encourages others, and someone who is able to recognize value when he sees it. And I think that right there, that's the key. Instead of seeing your value in the things that you do, try to find value in your ability to recognize value. If you can be the person who sees another person and goes, oh man, this person's really good at this. And you're now all of a sudden you've gained respect and value because you're able to see value in others. And that's a skill in and of itself. That's a thing in and of itself that people recognize. And that's the type of person that other people want to be friends with. And it's the type of person that women want to be in a relationship with because, man, this is someone who sees quality and knows it when he sees it. And finding value in recognizing the value in others gets you so much further in life. And it helps you... I bumped the mic. And it helps you just feel better about yourself.
Yeah.
It's so powerful to see the value in others and affirm that. And you might not be as good as what they are and what they do, but you can be the best at seeing the value in others. And that's a very easy thing to do because there's so few competitors.
Yeah.
There's so few people trying as hard as they can to find the best thing about the people around them and tell other people about it. It is something that there is so little competition and it is so easily respectable that you can do that one thing. You can be the best in your social group at seeing the value or the skills in other people And being the one to go into a room, putting your hand on their shoulder, and you do this. You put your hand on your shoulder and you put your arm out like this. And you go, did you guys know that this guy right here, he does this one thing and it's really cool. And they'll see the thing that he did that's really cool. But what they're going to remember is that you were the one who brought them that information. Mm-hmm. That you were the one who made them realize the value of someone else. It is an incredible feeling. And it is one of the best ways that someone who is self-conscious and constantly feeling like they're not good enough and they aren't living up to what other people around them are doing. If you can just talk to someone and just try to think, what's the one thing that they are so exceptional at that I couldn't compete? Or that if I did compete, I would be uncertain of the outcome. Because that's the other thing, is that if you are actually close and skilled to them and you're bragging on them, they'll remember that for a little bit. But every time that you're close to that, they'll be like, he's also pretty good at that thing. It is the most pure feeling of selfless liberation, where all of a sudden you're not threatened by them. You're on their team, and when they succeed, it reflects well on you because you're the one who told everyone in the first place, pay attention to this when they do this thing. Pay attention to when they play the guitar, because they're the best guitar riffer I've ever heard. Pay attention to that. And they'll be like, oh man, Whitman was right. They won't think, oh man, they're really good. They'll think, Whitman was right. He really is really good at that thing. It's a cool feeling to be someone else's advocate.
Hell yeah. I think that's what we'll call it. That's a good place to wrap it up after 90 minutes.
90 minutes. Dang. All right.
Hell yeah.
I feel like we got a lot.
That was a very long cigar review.
Sorry.
It's good.
It's good.
We'll see you guys next time.